really weird green light that shows up or something like that. And I don't know, it says this hangout is on air. You see like that right there. Hey, we're live. It's been a busy weekend, and we're here to talk to you about it. I am joined this week by our regulars, Mr. Mike White.
Hi, everybody.
And Mr. J.
Hi.
Mr. J.
Mr. J. We got a lot to talk about as far as tournaments. All three of us went to tournaments this weekend, and all of us played in tournaments, but not a single one of us played in the same tournaments. So it's pretty awesome weekend to talk about. But before we get started, we've recently started a new show. It's our road trip show, as it is, called Move and Attack. So anytime I'm in a car on my way to either even a local tournament or a distant tournament, we're going to answer fan questions with myself and whoever else happens to be in the car at the time. Now, one of the things about this show is that it's not like this show where when we get our questions, we post something on Facebook, and then that same day we're going to collect the questions. I can't dig through Facebook for that kind of a long period of time. So we've set up a Google Forms for this. Now, the link is down below in the description, and it's a very simple process. You click on that link, and you'll see here this wonderful window, and then all it is a little bar there, and all you got to do is answer your question. So like right here, I'm just going to say, why is Jason so beautiful?
Which one?
Exactly.
What, we have more than one Jason all of a sudden?
And then I hit submit, and then I'm done. That's it. That's all it takes. And then that question is in the bank, and we can go check on that later, and I can compile those when I go on my road trips and get all that. So that's something we're starting to do. It all started with one of our fans, Mr. Malcolm Rush, who's out in Japan and lives vicariously through us. And he just kind of asked us a bunch of questions, and I took the time to answer them all on our road trip to and from Canadian Nationals. So we're compiling as many of those questions as we possibly can, and we hope that more and more of them show up. All right. So that said, most of this episode is going to be this week's Week in Heroclix. There's one preview to go over, and I'm just going to go over it very quickly because the pictures of them are out and about. And these pictures come to us courtesy of 2 Clicks from KO. So what we have is the new wanted poster ID cards. These are what our prizing for Days of Future Past are, the event. The Wolverine is a participation prize, and the Kate Pride is the prize figure, or the prize card. Now, these are effectively, for all intents and purposes, ID cards. But they're a little different than ID cards. So the first part there is that the wanted poster is an ID card for all intents and purposes. The inspiration works the same way. Wolverine gives you Blaze Claws and Fangs, and Kate Pride gives you Exploit Weakness. There are other identities you can work off of with these. This Wolverine, it looks like it's Old Man Logan is one of the options. I can't quite see. Colonel Logan, and is that Weapon X?
I can't remember, but I know Colonel Logan is there.
Yeah. And then the other identities for Kate Pride are Kitty Pride, Shadowcat, Ariel, and Sprite, because, of course, we don't have an actual Kate Pride figure. So for all other effects, they're ID cards. With the setup, you pay for them, you put a character on them, so on and so forth. You call them in just like an ID card. But here's where things get different, and it's this bounty effect. So what will happen is when an opposing character hits this ID character, immediately return it to your sideline, and after resolutions, heal the attacking character 1 click, and if this ID card is returned at the beginning of your next turn, heal the character that used to call in help 1 click. So what'll happen is if somebody attacks the bounty character, the character immediately goes away. So it's basically impossible to score. You'd have to find a way to get a ton of poison through it. But then if they are still there the next turn and you remove them by just being there, the character who called them in gets to heal 1 click. So it's a big flip on what we're used to with the ID cards. It's very different. I'm kind of glad the Wolverine is participation because the Wolverine ID card is very pricey right now. But I kind of want to get the thoughts of my fellow compatriots here. So, Mike, what are your thoughts on this new version of the ID card?
Well, it's an interesting idea for a couple of reasons. I mean, you could play it almost. I don't know what's the best way to say it. You can play it in a different way of. Man, it's. I'm failing at words today. My apologies. There's sort of like two added benefits now to calling in this figure. Of course, there's the worry of, they take him out and they get to heal one. But what's nice about this is Wolverine's a great example, okay? We've already seen Wolverine as a great call-in, the super rare, especially at 50 points. He comes in, he gets a couple of aggressive attacks, especially if you're playing an X-Men team. You can end up with 3 attacks if you're closer to their area, right? Because you come in with the free attack and the flurry. So now, not only that, but he's giving Blades, Claws, Fangs as an inspiration. So here's one figure coming in who's going to use one costed action to potentially make 3 attacks, the one free one that'll happen, and then the flurrying. And you've used one costed action to bring him in. So you've still got, in a basic 300-point game, assuming you don't have leadership, at least one more costed action left. So if you have another attacker in there who maybe has a high attack but not a high damage output, they can use Blades, Claws as an option too. So if you're in a very aggressive position and you want to deal out a ton of damage quickly, it's a great tactic, because then as well, if you know that eliminates the only person who can retaliate on the Wolverine, there's a very good chance it's still going to be there come your next turn, and you'll get the healing benefit as well. So it's a really big payoff, but with the risk of, hey man, if I can't find a way to make sure this Wolverine doesn't get taken out, then my opponent's going to get to heal. And you can't just, move away from it and make it go to the sideline, because that's not going to benefit you either. So I kind of like the idea of it. It's giving you another dynamic to call-ins. I begrudgingly have to accept call-ins. They've more than become a massive part of the game over the past couple of years. I'd hoped it was sort of a flash in the pan, but clearly it's not. Pretty intriguing, especially with the Wolverine, man. I look at the Wolverine one especially, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. All right, Jay?
Pretty much better than regular IDs in every way. Because... Like, you might get healing, or you set it up so that they either can't take it out and get a heal, or you don't care, depending on the situation, because you can just deal out so much damage now. Like a Shredder team. Like, okay, they heal 1. Big deal. Kind of thing. And the Blades inspiration is insanely good now that we have Autonomous, so... watch out for autonomous characters attacking with blades 500 times in a turn, apparently.
Well, one thing worth mentioning about this in relation to something like the Shredders is the Shredders are probably the ones that could kill these guys, because this triggers off of an attack.
Yep, you could, like, let's say they call in a Wolverine, you could double Shredder Chamber and score it, so.
Yeah, so they're not unscorable, but they're not easy to score in comparison.
I just imagine flurrying Walking Woods with blades.
Yeah.
That's all.
Would I do that?
I mean, Dr. Midnight's seen some play, and Hootie essentially has autonomous exploit weakness.
Mm-hmm. How many autonomous guys did we just get from just the
There's like 10 Pog generators in the new set. It's insane.
Imagine some Blades, Claws, Fish. Average fish. Average fish ain't so average no more.
Yeah.
Plus, there's also Penguin Pog with exploit from Joker's Wild.
Yep. I can imagine calling in a Wolverine, trouble alerting in a Hawk Girl, flurry blades from the average birds.
Well, you have to keep in mind the order of operations.
Sure, I bring out the average birds first, and then bring out Wolverine, and then blades, flurry. I mean. Order or not, this is a thing that can happen.
Gross.
So, yeah. They're pretty good, guys. They're really good. Somebody mentioned.
We also know the inspirations for the rest of them, and they're all insanely good.
Yeah, they're all pretty good. I don't have them handy, but
I have it. I have all the information in front of me.
So I love when I asked you for all the pictures, and you gave me 2 of them.
Well, I didn't realize you meant all of them.
What pictures of what?
Because these ones we only got.
Fight.
Wait.
Who's saying that?
See, this is why I use vague terminology, so I get everything from you, and then you give me part of it, and then you
We
start
have
telling me the middle of it.
Participation Colossus for month 2 with charge. And I don't know what the actual name is, Rachel Summers, whatever, with running shot. And
Basically, Phoenix. I think she offers up
Marvel
Marvel
Girl,
Girl,
which is
as
a
one
thing,
of the
because
other
you can
things,
call him the 50-point TK
Thank
one.
goodness you can't bring in a Jean Grey with it. Let's just say that.
And then I think
She's another thing.
Storm participation with energy explosion, Magneto prize with psychic blast, and possibly another. I mean, I don't think another power because it's kind of cut off. But
so what was the Rachel one? Running shot. The Rachel. Gray?
Yeah, running shot. Identities are
Summers
Hound, Phoenix, Marvel
man.
Girl. So just Marvel Girl matters.
So Marvel Girl. Oh my God! So wait a minute. Here we go. So we call in Marvel Girl, who's got TK next to Unimind, and Unimind now doesn't actually have to pick running shot for one of his side guys. Instead, he'll just get the running shot when Marvel Girl pops next to him, who's also going to TK him up the map to then running shot on Wakanda Forever.
Or Colossus, Mjolnir, Charge Flurry.
Yeah.
You have Star Fox. It's
yeah. Wow.
Like, the Cosmic Team was already strong, guys. Why you do this?
Yeah. How many points is that?
Which one?
How many points to put one of these bounty cards?
5.
They're all 5.
Okay, so they're the same as okay.
The same as ID cards.
Great. I got enough room on my Star Fox Cosmic Team. All right, good enough. Week 2 was it? Whatever it is.
It's months.
Yeah. But Colossus's participation. So
exactly.
Sure.
Just got to show up week 2. That's all I got to do.
Just have a pulse. All right. That said, these new ID cards are super exciting competitively, super scary competitively as well. Just because of how awesome indeed they are. But with that said, we all went to tournaments this weekend. I participated in a WKO down in Elmvale. Mike participated in Rock Provincials for Ontario. And Jay, you went to was it yours also a States in New York?
No, just a Rock qualifier.
Just a Rock qualifier. All right. There's somebody constantly asking about my team, but my team will not be going first. I love tormenting our fans. Mike, you how was Rock Provincials?
Well, I was hoping to do well. I can't say I was hoping to do better than I did last year because I won the tournament last year. I was the 2017 winner, and really it would have been super cool to win this one. To say I was a 2-time, that would have been nice. Two-time. But clearly I did not, from what I'm saying. But it was still a good tournament nonetheless. The turnout was not as big as it was last year. I think we had about 17 players. Jay was head judge for that event.
I was the only judge, so you guys were
fair enough.
But yeah, 17.
So I will say, before I get to the quick synopsis of things, that overall I was happy with my team. It's a team that I played at Nationals and played stupidly in my first game at Nationals, and that was a whole long, painful story that I will have a whole other year to think about. But my team was Star Fox Chase, hence why we were talking about the Colossus ID, Cosmo, super rare, Unseen, super rare, 2 Groots, because I like the Groots, and the Skyscraper Wonder Woman. So Cosmic team with 6 figures. Everything from Avengers Infinity except for that Skyscraper Wonder Woman, which was not on the original build. That was an add-on after some changes to things. So originally it was actually an all Avengers Infinity main force, which I kind of liked because I'm enjoying using new stuff all the time. Trying to keep it fresh for myself and for my opponents, because when you can surprise people sometimes, that's a nice edge. Anyway, I also had 4 IDs on there. I had the Wolverine faculty ID, and then I had Iceman, Jean Grey, and Cyclops the student IDs. And then I had 2 special objects. I had Mjolnir and I had Froggelnir.
Froggelnir.
I can never say that name. It's a stupid name. I'm sorry.
Froggelnir.
Froggelnir. So clearly, I don't think there's much surprise to what my team is all about. Like a lot of other people have done, you get Mjolnir on Star Fox, and he can flurry from 8 range, potentially 10 range if he wants to use his +2 perplex on that. And you don't care if he actually gets hit because he can flurry steal energy at range and often put himself right back up to full health again. And I've got lots of walking woods running around, both as mastermind fodder when he gets hit to his stop click and to get in people's way, tie them up. In a game at Nationals, 3 of my walking woods killed a lockjaw in 1 turn with 3 successful flurry attacks. All 6 attacks were successful in the 1 turn. Yeah, it was amazing. So don't discount the walking woods at all. And what's nice too is Skyscraper Wonder Woman is another way to sort of tie people up. And I like to pick the office a bunch, so I can use that to hide. And then Wonder Woman just moves through a section, destroying all the walls, and suddenly it's wide open for my team. And of course, everybody knows about calling in all the juicy stuff with, Cyclops, Wolverine, Iceman, Jean Grey. But what's the sort of little different thing that I've been fiddling with is the combo of Unseen and Cosmo together, with Froggelnir going on to Cosmo. And this is obviously so that Unseen can now be a taxi for him. And especially because in most games I choose to actually push Cosmo onto his second click, which then gives him his special power, which allows him to pick a character and say that they can't take power actions. I use this especially well against more tentpole teams designed around a tentpole that calls people in, especially a Unimind team. All I have to do is get within that 6 of Unimind, pick him, and he can't take power actions, which really negates a massive part of that team. It works very well. Sometimes my dice don't work so well. So my first game was against this guy. I think his name was Clancy. I can't read his handwriting very well. He said he hadn't been playing in about a year and a half or so. He was feeling very rusty. He had an Asgardian team, which was also an Avengers team, funnily enough. And it was interesting, but it didn't cover enough of the bases. So it was basically Title Thor, Eric Masterson, Jane Foster, and I forget the other Thor, but there was another Thor on there. There just wasn't enough variety to his team, and we ended up on a very wide open map. So it was very easy for me to just sort of set up my team in a way to do everything I wanted with picking up all the items. I killed Title Thor in 1 turn. I used my outwits. I didn't even bother to get to the no power action thing with Cosmo. I just kept his outwit because there was no way to stop my outwit. And that way I had double outwit, which really just ripped apart his team. And in fact, so much so that Eric Masterson died, turned into the Thunderstrike or whatever Thor that comes in. He rolled a 6 and immediately died again. So I scored, an extra 60 points. So I took 360 in my first game. And I felt pretty good about my team. But again, it was a team that with a player who said, I haven't been around in a while. So he was sort of getting back in the flow of things. My next game was against Tom Kerr, another MetaLab member. And man, our game was so close, like really, really close. The score, I think it actually ended up being like about 120 something for him, and I had 63 points, which sounds a lot farther. But it was, Tom even admits it, if there was 5 more minutes in our game, I would have definitely won that game because I was right at the precipice where I had his big players crippled. I had lost Cosmo, but I had Star Fox squarely in the middle of things, flurrying and hitting, and Unseen was doing everything he wanted to do. And time ran out. And to be fair, a lot of that has to do with the nature of the game lately. I keep noticing it. A lot of games are going where people get maybe 5 turns. So you got to be more on point, and you got to be more aggressive. A lot of people are taking longer turns because there's so many elements to the game, and there's also a very important order to things. You have to remember the order to things. So people are really taking their time to sort of map everything out, all the complicated elements, especially when you face off against an X-Men team that's got, you know, all these perplexes and leaderships and what have you. So we're not getting a lot of turns in there. So this sort of comes up again later on. My 3rd round match was against Patricia Lamb, always a very difficult player. She had an X-Men team with, you know, the sort of there was double Wolverine, Cyclops, Lila, and the Deadpool using the boxing ring. So we know what it does. It's a lot of calling in. It's a lot of perplexing. She managed to murder both my Groots right away, which I kind of knew was going to happen. And I was prepared for that because it allowed me to get Skyscraper Wonder Woman right in her way. So she sort of had to come around on things. I started using the outwits and the no power action thing effectively, but she made a great move. I forgot about that free attack when you damage someone with X-Men, and she had actually called in Jubilee. Jubilee is who killed both my Groots and a whole bunch of Walking Woods, but I managed to murder her with Star Fox with a flurry attack that hit both times. So she, instead of doing a call-in, she just brought Cyclops all the way over within range of Star Fox. Boom, got him with the free attack. I probbed it. It became doubles. So I ended up on the stop click, knocked back into the edge of the map, and died. Painful. I'm like, that's back. And I'm like, I don't care. I still got Unseen in the dog. And I got Wonder Woman. I'm doing this thing. Wonder Woman jumped into the pile of them, hit everybody with her attack, did 3 damage to everybody, killing Cyclops and killing Lila, making it so that the other 2 couldn't move, couldn't make ranged attacks. And especially that was great against Deadpool. So he couldn't do his free face teleport, whatever. And then I made a big move to call in Iceman to do a single target pulse wave on Deadpool. I went to move out of the way with Unseen to get into position to prob but not be in the range of the pulse wave. And big mad respect to Patricia for being the quality and respectful player she is. She waited because I was about to put Unseen in a position that was more than 5, would have made Cosmo more than 5 away from Iceman, who he had called in. So Iceman would have disappeared off the map. And Patricia just waited and kind of gave me a look to like, hey, before you finish doing what you're doing, you should really look at the map. And that's when it clued into me. I hit with the pulse wave that I was then able to do because Iceman didn't disappear, and it killed Deadpool. And I actually ended up winning that game with 253 points, in spite of having lost both Groots and Star Fox pretty earlier on in the game. So again, I have to give nothing but respect to Patricia for being a really classy player, because she could have just let that happen and probably would have eked out the win in the game. So she doesn't win that way. She wins the right way. My last game was against Jimmy, and not to spoil things, but the eventual winner of the tournament. Yeah. So I feel, I guess, slightly less bad. And I only lost by 20 points to him. Ooh. And in fact, if I literally had one action, Jay called final round during Jimmy's turn. I was first player. If I had one action left, I would have actually won that game, because I would have been able to colossal retaliate with a 13 attack on Carnage with a 16 defense, and then follow up with an attack on his Groot, also with a 13 attack and only an 18 defense. I would have killed them both, got the points I needed, and I would have won that game by 10 points. Instead, I lost it by 20. It was a super tight game, but it was another game where, like, I had 4 turns His team was what's her name? Rennet Tilly, carrying around a Doc Ock, a Sam Cap, and a Carnage, a Surtur, and a Groot.
And a second Carnage.
I picked the office map. He moved it out into the middle of it. I immediately came around a corner, used Unseen to shut down Rennet Tilly's power. So he didn't have the ability to actually bring his guys in to get to me. Because I also sidestep away with Unseen and put Unseen 9 away and start outwitting their stuff. So he never got a chance to come in with Doc Ock or Sam Cap at all in that whole game. But in a horrible, horrible miscounting on my part, late in the game, I called in Iceman thinking I would be able to pull away Cosmo enough that Iceman would disappear at the end. He didn't. And Jimmy Colossal retaliated on him with Carnage, hit, popped out the symbiote hit, and killed Iceman. And it was those points that won him the game. Whereas if I had the follow-up turn to that, so literally our game was decided in the last 2 minutes. Just like that. Super close game. I don't feel really bad about it again because I know that my team is playing well for me. I know it can win. It finished second at the WKO a couple of weeks ago. And really, it's about playing faster. So I just need to practice more to get the flow of my turns down faster so that I can make up the time for a lot of other players who maybe have more to do or, aren't quite so quick with their teams.
All right. Next up, Jay. New York, New York.
You're doing that in chronological order. What are you doing?
It's not a matter of chronological order. It's a matter of placement order.
Oh, yeah. I missed the top 8 cut, by the way. I finished 10th. I missed the top 8 cut by 18 points.
So if you're 18 points, how bad was 9th place?
Right?
Well, wasn't it? There was whoever was 9th was whatever, and then the person after that was 1 point below that.
I was 1 point below the person who was in 9th. And I was only 18 points.
So you missed 9th by 1 and 8th by 18.
Exactly. Literally one more action in my game. Even if I didn't win, the points I would have got for killing the Groot would have put me in the top 8.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway,
right.
Sorry, Jay. Go ahead.
Okay. Jay.
Do you want me to talk about provincials at all or just my actual...
Well, you were judging. We kind of got the overall takeaway. Is there anything that you observed that maybe we missed in Mike's description?
I felt like the winning team was definitely a little bit more local meta. Like, I don't see as much Rennet Tilly and next to no Doc Ock, but Jimmy loves that Doc Ock. Mm-hmm. Since we've lost Mike Payne, there has to be somebody playing Doc Ock, so that happened. What else? There was a lot of long turns. Like, I saw Derek playing the Avengers +9 Hawkeye team again, and there was a lot of decision making there, especially since Hawkeye can only attack each character once. It was, I feel like, basically typical Toronto. Like, there were some pretty standard teams, and there was also a little bit of our local flair where people want to play what they want. Like Tom's team with the double Tom twist of not wanting to borrow anything, which is just such a Tom thing to do.
Every time Tom refuses to borrow people's stuff, he's got to work that day.
And it feels bad because I have this whole collection and never sees any play. Like, I would actually prefer it if he would borrow and use my figures, but he was in that sort of Tom mood. But it was a pretty good tournament. Turnout was reasonable, higher than some states that I've heard about. I've heard states with as little as like 8 people, so 17 was good. It was a good time. But as far as the other tournament goes, I ended up immediately after Provincials, drove down to Buffalo with Emily, and we stayed with Nick and Patricia because they were very nice and let us stay there with them. What happened? We got there pretty late. Emily and I got a playtest game in because I don't think she'd ever played against the particular build that I was running, so it was good to get some practice in. I ended up playing almost basically PJ's Blackbird build, except with a little bit of a twist, thanks to some talks with him and Adam Friedman. So basically the same build, but minus Thug, minus Tank, minus Boxing Ring, add 2 suited henchmen, and then replace a Wolverine main force with Chase Angel, because he does a lot of cool stuff. Like, he has regular Perplex, so the Harley ID card that I added gets a regular Perplex from there, as well as the Blackbird. Revenge tokens are good, and Angel going kaboom was pretty relevant in a couple games. If only to force the opponent to go for him, to kill him. Round 1 was against, can't remember the person's name. He had a full point Unimind with 5 Eternals, none of the really expensive ones. It was like no Cersei, what was it? It was Makari, Thena, Rare Star Fox, Icarus, and Ajax, I think.
Okay.
But that none of that basically mattered, because I won map roll. Every time I won map roll, I picked a mock time, which was not necessarily the best move in one of the games, but I'll get to that later. But I turn 1 leeched. So instead of him getting to do a hypersonic turn 1 with his 3 perplexes, he ended up just picking super senses, basically. So I moved up a little bit. What was that?
I'm just looking at the map as to why why it was your choice. I understand it.
Yeah,
That's all.
It's open.
Honestly, I only know what the other side of this map looks like.
Yeah, but that's the map of choice with the PJ build. So I inch up a little bit. He inches up a little bit. He goes for a huge hit on Angel, which I think he only hit him for 5 anyway, but he got into a stop click. And then I ended up real boying in. I can't remember if I called in a real boy in a Jean Grey to take advantage of the snow. No. My first attack was with the Cyclops because he had super senses, so I went all to damage, basically, to get into the first stop click. I ended up following up with a Jean Grey because Psychic Blast on the impervious click. At one point, he was on his last stop click, and I had Wolverine do a revenge attack just to try and pop him. He was already pushed. Didn't really matter. Rolled a crit miss, and I was like, well, I could, theoretically, theme prop the crit miss, but I had my Firestorm sitting there. So I was like, what do I want more? And I have settling for the Firestorm, which ended up working out. What happened? I popped his Unimind, and then Eternals happened, and then I immediately had Angel go kaboom to kill all the Eternals. So that alone made Angel worth the price of investment, because you do not want to have to track down and kill all damn Eternals in one hit. Also especially relevant because there's just a lot of stop click kind of stuff, like how, let's say there's an opposing Flora who's healed 1 or 2 clicks, you just kaboom, and it's not attack damage, so they just die. What was the other figure that was relevant? It just kills Avengers Infinity Chases, although that didn't end up mattering. But yeah, that was a fun kaboom, killing 5 things at once. So I ended up with 585 or something for the extra points. Round 2, I think I can't remember if it was Emily or Patricia round 2, but either way, it was against one of the 2 of them. I guess I'll go talk about the Patricia game first, which was I won map roll. We had identical map rolls. A mock time. I basically move. I barely move. I either keep the jet in the starting area or I move up a little bit into the little patch of hindering just in front of the starting area. There's like just enough that you can fit a jet in on that map. And then she moves up into the boxing ring, which she had. I end up doing a Cyclops awesomeness humongous attack to kill the Deadpool because the way the resource works, if you real boy a character, you get the inspiration because it says place the ID character on the map, which is how you trigger inspirations. So it says like place ID character on the map, and then a couple sentences after, that's no longer ID character. So when you place them on the map, they're an ID character. So I did the PJ trick of I call in student Cyclops as a call-in, real boy in the headmaster, so I get the Force Blast inspiration, up his damage 3 times, and then shoot the Deadpool for 6 damage plus knockback because she didn't have the Healy Deadpool because she had Prime X, so it was the bathrobe, I think. So I killed Deadpool right away. And then stuff happens. I can't remember. I was so tired because I literally woke up at 8 on Saturday. Judge Provincials drove there. It was hectic weekend, but I ended up winning. I think I just beat her. Angel didn't blow up. I don't even know if my Blackbird died, but I won, so that happened. And then I ended up playing Emily as well. Not sure which of the 2 rounds it was, but either way. I just win map roll because Emily does not have theme. +6. She probably, I think she moved into the boxing ring. I decided to just, what did I do? Did I get a real boy? Trying to remember. No, I did a Harley title call in. I energy explode. I did 2 perplexes on her attack, shot into the ring, so it was a +5 -2. So I ended up shooting, killing the tank, giving Sam a token, pushing Kite Man. But I didn't target Shredder Clone because I didn't want the -2 from that as well. And then my Jean Grey Real Girl got damage upped twice, outwitted Dust's defense power, and one-shot her. So Emily was not happy after that turn. And basically...
Sorry, I just need a second here. How did you get so much perplex onto Harley Quinn's attack?
Because Angel has regular perplex, and the Blackbird takes pilot ability perplex. So it's a regular perplex. Okay.
So that's 2 there.
And Harley +3 is her attack for the energy explosion.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that also is part of the reason why
I forgot about the +3 on that.
Because there's really good non-X-Men call-ins now. Maybe in the future, even more. So that happened. At one point, she turns into the shark, and the shark actually survived until the end of the game. She killed, because I killed Shredder Clone, didn't score the points. I scored call-ins off her. She killed stuff on my force. So it ended up balancing out to the point where the game went to last round, and it was a 2-point difference in my favor. So that was pretty nutty. If the game had gone on longer, I would have just won, period. It ended up being the last thing she did in the last round was her Ironheart shot my Blackbird onto last click. But if I had more time, I would have subsequently pushed to death to real boy something in, pop out Pilot Cyclops with +2s, and just kill everything. All the everythings. And then last round was against Dick Peterson with his Insanity What the Hell team of Infinity being the main piece. 2 Floras, Carnage, Double Dinosaur, Whiz Kid, Chase Flash at lower points, Groot. That has to be everything.
Okay.
He also had a bunch of trouble alerts, including a second Flash. Basically, Infinity affecting opposing swing really matters. So basically what I ended up doing is, at this point, it didn't matter who won, so I tried to experiment and see what would happen. So I ended up doing a really long-range Cyclops shot to kill a non-healed Flora. I ended up needing 6s. No probs against me. Didn't prob 3 times and didn't hit. Including pushing the Blackbird to do it. So then he subsequently took advantage of that. And Infinity just shot the Blackbird and killed it because she has 3 printed damage plus WizKid, pseudo enhancement, whatever. So that happened. I don't remember what else happened, but basically my next turn, and he ended up body blocking with the Colossals on Infinity. But what I did manage to do was perplex up Cyclops' move about 100 times, just move action straight up, and revenge attack Infinity to kill her, just to get the points. Then it basically came down to he won. The last thing that happened, though, was his Flash hypersonicked in to attack my Chase Angel on the last click to try and finish him off before he blew it up. But with Precision Strike, I managed to roll the 6, and then Angel blew up. And he killed, he killed a floor past the stop click. He killed a bunch of stuff. I basically ended up trading 60 points for 75. And all he had left at the end was Devil Dinosaur on the last click before the stop and another character. No, it didn't matter because we were both in for sure. And then we got into top 8, which was the issue because it was a 13-player tournament. So it really could have been top 2. I was second seed. It could have been top 4. But the problem was that they advertised top 8, and it was a qualifier, so map was only for top 4. I end up rematching Patricia. She wins map roll this time, and we go to Underground because out of her map choices, she had Amok Time as well, Underground, and another one that I can't remember, but Underground was basically her best option because we both had Cyclopses, we both whatever, but I guess she thought it was just better for her with her boxing wing and positioning. So what did I do? This was the only game I've ever played with this team where I didn't do the turn 1 Rusty, spin up the resource, whatever. I ended up doing a Cyclops poof to kill her Moira to try and get an early lead. She kills the Blackbird immediately with a really long-range Wolverine charge flurry. I had not done a real boy, so my Blackbird essentially did nothing that game. So Pilot Cyclops pops out. So yeah, that stuff happens. Then she ends up with most of her team in the ring, including, so she had a Wolverine near my starting area at the Pilot Cyclops, and then she had the other her Cyclops who had made an attack of some sort. So basically, I had my Wolverine charge, attack her Wolverine that had killed the Blackbird, revenge attack to finish him. Cyclops does a running shot to shoot her Wolverine to just get some damage off, as well as revenge attack her Cyclops to kill it. So +2 shooting into the ring, +2, -2, whatever. I needed 6s for these 2 attacks, and despite all the theme probs, I could not hit the 6s.
6 was not your number.
No, it did kind of matter because her Cyclops then did stuff, including killing my Wolverine with a running shot revenge attack. So if he was dead and the Wolverine was damaged, it would have been much different because her Wolverine ended up doing a charge, attack, sidestep back in the ring or something. But if I would have hit him off of the charge, that would have been good. Then she just ended up winning. At one point, I had Angel in the stop click, but she chambered him, which was sad. Poor Angel. But even if I had managed to blow up, it wouldn't have mattered because he ended up being pushed. And no matter how I did it, even if I blew up and killed everything, she would have still had surviving points and won by default. So a little upset that they didn't just cut to top 4 because second seed would have been in top 4 for sure, would have gotten a map. But Emily ended up in top 4 getting a map, so that was pretty cool and important. And that is basically the last major super important tournament that I play this year because judging at the World Cup, no idea what happens at Worlds, and then Opens are the only other things, and I don't care that much about Opens at this point, so no more playing for me this year. So it was a fun tournament nonetheless. Got to see my New York area friends, Nick and Patricia. Got to hang out with them. Emily did well. Emily went from having 0 rock maps to winning 2 this weekend. So that was incredible.
From 0 to all.
Yeah. So good weekend for Emily. Emily's been on a hot streak lately. She is the one to be afraid of right now. And getting to drive her there to be successful was awesome.
All right. Well, I hit up the WKO in Elmville, as I said. And Elmville, the store is called Jackson Queen. They're a fantastic little store to play in. Very enthusiastic staff. I love the owner there. She's got a ton of energy, and I love playing there. They always provide us with little snacks. This time around, it was donuts and muffins. And there was 14 people in the event, and it was running at the same time as a Magic Preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. So this room was crowded, and they still managed to fit both of these events. So we had the equivalent of 2 of the same type of event running at the same time, which I'm very impressed by. And all my salutes go out to the folks over at Jackson Queen on being able to manage this as well as they did. So what team did I play? And everybody's excited to hear about it in the chat. I played my monster team from Canadian Nationals with some help. So my team from Canadian Nationals was a 100-point Carnage, the colossal one. It was 75-point Goblin King, 2 of the Dr. Frankensteins from the Undead set, 2 of the Colossal Groose on the Colossal Retaliation dial, and a Surtur. the Surtur was probably the most important thing in the final ever. So it's a +7 themed monster team, the same thing for Canadian Nationals, but there was one change. I had a 9-figure Super Friend sideline. And specifically in the sideline, it was every single Super Friend except for Green Lantern, Hawkman, and Aquaman. There's a lot of situations where I would have loved all of those. But that said, long story short, I think I didn't bring it. I could have brought one Super Friend in each game minimum. And there was a couple games where I looked at the board state and I wasn't safe enough in where I was to bring them out. So I chose not to. So round 1, I was up against my opponent. His name's Ian. About my age, I think, maybe slightly older. I'm not 100% sure. A newer player, but I love when I see a newer player aware of consequence in their actions. It's not very often when you see new player, a lot of times they go with no thought forward of the consequence of what they were doing. And this player, Ian, was well aware of everything he was doing and well aware of all the actions. Everything was deliberate in what he did. And so this is a player who, if he continues to play Heroclix, is going to do very well in the game. His team consisted of the Chase Batman from Elseworlds, a Hellion, an Unseen, a Mangog, and Giant Girl from the starter set, and a 50-point Hulk. It was just a lot of really good pieces to the team. He also had an all-new Wolverine ID card on the sideline. And so there was a point early in this game, I got a little happy about being able to use Trouble Alert in this game. And in the early state of the game, it could have cost me the game because I had attacked with Surtur, missed on a Colossal Retaliation, was able to kill a Mangog, though, because of the 1 penetrating damage after the fact. And, Unseen is a bit of a pain in the butt for my team because there's a lot of Colossal Retaliation going on. The Perplex is to help alleviate it, but when he has Prob as well coming from the Unseen, and the Prob is forcing misses, it's something you have to kind of deal with. So I was able to ping off the Magog. I was not able to get a line of fire on the Giant Girl. Before we go any further, 100% of my games I won map roll with my +7, and 100% of my games I played in the Underground Cavern. So I managed to get a Superman out by missing with some Walking Woods and missing with my Surtur. Superman went out, tried to attack Hellion, and completely whiffed it. And as a result, exposed himself, ended up dying very quickly. And now I was behind about 65 points to having killed like 30. So the pressure was on me to get kills. But another thing I've been working on is being effective when on tilt. He did move a little bit more forward to try to, establish a foothold on the map. And I was able to capitalize on this because he went gung-ho at my Goblin King with his Hulk. He did hit it, but my Hulk, because Goblin King has invulnerable, I was okay taking the 2 damage and eventually a 3rd on a push because I had some wacky retaliation options in this case too, where I would bring out, I brought out in this case my Carnage to wreak carnage as he does and throw as many attacks as I could. Problem, of course, is that Ian also threw attacks at other Walking Wood, so I had a lot of options in order to Colossal Retaliate with, and I tried to maximize to the best of my ability. I ended up actually kind of ignoring the Hulk, but the Colossal Retaliation that I used on him, I put a symbiote next to him to just kind of be like, okay, because he rolled the impervious off of the damage. All right, cool. I have to deal with that. Have a symbiotic friend. He tried to leap climb away from it and couldn't. I got the Batman down, got the Hellion down. Eventually took care of Giant Girl at one point as well with, I think, a Groot on a Colossal Retaliation. Anyway, I was able to eventually swing the game back in my favor in spite of being behind fairly early. But kudos to Ian for newer player. He had a really good move where he sicked he killed my Surtur with Jonathan the Badger or the Wolverine. So yeah, that happened. Great game. And he's got, this is a player who's got a future in the game once a collection kind of builds for him and a greater base of the knowledge goes. My next opponent, Andrew, another newer player, and this looked like also a limited collection team, as he had a Devil Dinosaur Moon Girl, a Dune Buggy, a Leatherwing, a X-Student, and Black Panther 2099 was his team. As you can imagine, this is a I've got this stuff I'm going to use type of team. And this game came down to he attacked a Walking Wood with, like, at first he was just using Moon Girl's free incapacitate to attack one of my Walking Woods, but then he switched to the Devil Dinosaur to attack the Walking Wood and kill it. And that's when I was able to trigger my Colossal Retaliation. And when your main attacker is a Colossal, this is the reason I have Surtur on my team. Because he'll Colossal Retaliate, and I put +2 to his attack, +1 to his damage in this case. So it was like a 14 attack with 4 damage, which is going to ignore any defense powers that the Devil Dinosaur has. Did 4 damage, 1 penetration, so it was 5 damage. And then I was able to, non-free action, attack the Devil Dinosaur for another 4 damage with a 14 attack again, which absolutely obliterated the Devil Dinosaur. I'm up 100. Even once he killed the Surtur, I was up 100 to 25. So I was in a really good state. And then from there, it was a matter of bringing in Walking Woods, using Groots to Colossal Retaliate until the end of the game when he had I think it was just the Black Panther who's got traded Shape Change, which is one of the most annoying things I had to deal with the whole thing. And just started, once I got that, Carnage came in towards the end of the game. I was able to Trouble Alert and Firestorm, but the game was kind of over by then. And I was just there for the prop because the Dune Buggy -1 attack is annoying. I don't care who you are. So I had to deal with that. Third round, Trevor Versaire. I've said his name a number of times on this show. I've played against him a number of times. I've also still seen him top 8 in a number of really, really good tournaments. He is a good player. Probably one of the better ones in the GTA. He's definitely a gatekeeper locally for this event. He's probably one of the best players in Elmvale that I'm familiar with. And he had a team that was something I've played against a lot at Canadian Nationals. It consisted of Samcap, Overdrive, Shredder, Mangog this time on his team, and a Joker. I believe it was at 30 points, and he had an ID card on his team for a Professor X, if I remember correctly. I might be wrong. Yeah. Either way, this is like the first time I played against a team that didn't have a boxing ring. It was a little weird for me. I forced my Walking Woods up, and Trevor ended up shreddering one of them. Don't shredder Walking Woods if you're seeing a bunch of Colossal Retaliators. This is a common mistake because people don't realize Colossal Retaliation just means that one of your characters had to deal damage. They don't have to do damage with an attack. This was one of those weird situations where instead of putting everything into Surtur's damage and whatnot, I knew I didn't have the damage to get through the Claw Shredder, but I wanted to absolutely cripple parts of his team with the damage. So what I did was upped his defense before I went forward, and went forward with a was the Surtur first? No, Surtur wasn't even first. It was with a Groot first. Jeez, my memory. It's because I just wanted more attacks on the Shredder. So I ended up doing +2 to the attack, +1 to damage. There's no point in going +3 to the attack with a Groot unless I plan on attacking into a boxing ring, because he's already got the +1 for me not being on a Guardians of the Galaxy theme team. So a 13 attack does end up hitting, drops another Walking Wood, another Walking Woods attack, and then it's flurrying all over the place. This game, a Troubler did happen later on. I got the first KO on the Claw Shredder, and what I ended up doing was I used his KO effect to put him next to my Goblin King. Chose Poison and Invincible, and he had to deal with that. He also had a Sword and a Symbiote on his team. I forgot to mention that. Sword went to the Joker, and the Symbiote went to, of course, the Claw Shredder, which I completely forgot. And then he walked away from my Goblin King and dealt damage to my to my one of my Groots, and it's like, oh, geez, that's the thing that just happened. Okay, well, I'll just have to deal with this. It was okay. It was ultimately like the Shredder was now isolated, and I was able to call in a Batman to outwit combat reflexes to deal with Sam Cap. At one point, I was able to shoot the Claw Shredder down, and then it was just a matter of getting everything isolated. There was one trick I later realized was a little against the rules, but that's because Trevor kept putting a light object token down for Overdrive's vehicle, which is supposed to be a heavy object. So I instinctively thought, well, I'll just take this light object away with my Surtur so that you can't make the thing, but it's supposed to be a heavy object. So I apologize for that little guffaw. It's one of those things. Always try to make sure you have the right representation, because you'll confuse both players. That was on both of us. Well, ultimately, I think it was good for the laugh. And in hindsight, I could have just shot the thing with Surtur because it's not an attack to kill an object. So long story short, is my goal was to get rid of that object so that Overdrive was not a threat to his movement. Eventually sent Carnage at Sam Cap to finish off. Then it was just a matter of killing the Ha-Ha Joker, which he went running for my Goblin King with. But I've got enough familiarity with this Ha-Ha Joker in order to know what kind of damage I need to deal and how to deal that damage. So with a combination of like flurries and knockbacks and close combat experts and everything that I could throw at that Joker, I just slowly beat him down until it was all over and I got even the Joker dead. That Ha-Ha Joker is still hard to kill. So anybody not, looking at like, oh, it's crap now. No, he's still a tough figure, and he's still got a place in the game somewhere, especially when he's armed with a sword. He's got blades on everything, and that's obnoxious. So I go into the fourth round now, 3-0, against my friend Aiden, who drove me up there, incidentally. And he was playing a team that I built for him in Amber. It was 100-point Carnage. The Space Michelangelo, the one that gives you Smoke Cloud and Sidestep, the 50-point Hulk from the Fast Forces, the Red Leader Prime, and what's the other? Surtur on the team. And in addition to this, he had a 5-figure Super Friend sideline. Much like myself, it was every Super Friend that he had in his possession. This was one of the best games I've ever seen Aiden play. Usually me and Aiden play a lot of fun games. We play a little goofy and whatnot. And this is that first time where I saw Aiden put the gears on and really think his way through a lot of turns. And he did a pretty good job. The only thing that I think he did wrong was overstretching with his Hulk, which I was able to one-shot with the Goblin King, forcing a retaliation, which I retaliated against. And again, our game is like retaliate, smoke clears. I've got more retaliators and Walking Woods and symbiotes left to finish off. So that's kind of how that plays out. But Aiden played it perfectly. He did a fantastic job with a lot of his decisions, with the exception of that one Hulk. And that, ended up being the thing that kind of put me over. But this, we were both guaranteed to be in the top 8 at this point. I go in the top 8, 4-0. He goes in at 3-1. So that was pretty good on our parts. In the top 8, my first opponent is a player locally, Jim. He was not happy when he saw my team because of the fact that I basically hard countered his team. His team was the 75-point Thor and Hulk from the Ragnarok movie set, the Owl from Avengers Defenders War. How awesome is that to say? He's playing the Owl. He's also got Pip the Troll to move his Hulk and Thor, and he's got Frogman. And his entire basis of his team is to throw knockback around and knock people back around into the Hulks and Thors and get free attacks off of that. Unfortunately, almost none of my team can be knocked back. Like you can knock back the Walking Woods, it's not going to kill them. And they're generally easy to position in my favor. So he went full bore by turn 2 with his Pip the Troll, had his Hulk and Thor in front of 2 of my my Colossals, which was a little unnerving at first, but my dice have never been so hot in my life. I got my Walking Woods my first Walking Wood next to his Pip the Troll. First attack on the flurry was a critical hit. Oh, okay. Next I had another Walking Wood bases Owl. Next attack on a flurry, critical hit. What? And then after that, a second flurry attack on the, two flurries on the, and then the second flurry ended up killing the owl. And then my third action was to flurry on, what's it called? Frogman. First attack hits, second attack critical hit. So, okay, my dice are super hot, and I'm apologizing. I am sorry this is happening. He tries to return fire with his Hulk and Thor. Needs like 6s, misses both of the attacks. It was such a shame. And then I was just able to Colossal retaliate from that because he made attacks against Colossals. And eventually, like with the use of Empower and Prop for my Goblin King, just absolutely overwhelmed with attacks and damage, and eventually get through those Hulks. The game was over fairly quickly. Jim was not, he was like, your team's just going to beat mine. This was academic. I got top 8. I was happy. Unfortunately, it drew a lot of attention from people. Like, you guys are done already from the top 8? Like, guys, pay attention to your games, please. I hate when that happens. When your opponent is sitting there right next to you. He's like, oh my God, you're already done? Easy, guys. Just pay attention to your games. Don't draw too much attention to it. So you just give it a nod, like, and then we move on. So in the top 4, I'm up against Patrick, local player, and I've played against him a ton. Oh my gosh, if I played against this guy a lot. His team was really good. It was Flash God of Death, Lockjaw, and Mini Shredder with a Chamber ID card on the side. Now, what ended up happening in this game is he got very far forward very quickly with the Shredder and wanted to kill my Surtur and dealt 1 damage for my Carnage. I'm a little on tilt, but I think I can deal with this. I get my Dr. Frankenstein's in a weird position. I Colossal retaliate on the Shredder, which is fine. And then immediately, like, I perplex up the attack on my Carnages. Colossal retaliate. I hit them with the Colossal retaliation, but it's only 3 damage at this point. Then I heal with the Dr. Frankenstein as a free action. Get the support back on first click. Then that's when I flurry against the Mini Shredder, and then follow up with an attack from the symbiote. Kind of goes fairly well. I get the first KO on the Mini Shredder, move it away from. Actually, I kind of kept it next to the symbiote, to be honest, because that was whatever. He subsequently rolls a 6 on his breakaway sidestep with it, which I was just like, "Are you serious?" Okay, I just had to deal with that. He calls in Chamber with his Mini Shredder, tries to deal some damage to my Carnage, gets a little bit of damage off on him, but not enough for me to really feel threatened by it, to say the least. I once again follow my trick. He does 1 poison damage to it. Can't get the attack off on it because I think the defense ended up just being too much. And was able to retaliate on the Chamber, didn't kill him, tried to flurry with the first attack, missed on the flurry, which was frustrating. Got the second attack to finish off the Chamber, so I'm now up the Chamber, and then there's a wounded Mini Shredder off in the distance, which I'm able to sidestep range combat expert with my Goblin King. He kills one of my Dr. Frankensteins and another Groot, but before I'm able to kill the Mini Shredder, I get 1 hit off of the Flash because his Flash also, this is once again, the symbiote got missed in my description. He had a symbiote. Symbiote was on the Flash God of Death. So we got a Flash God of Death with a 19 defense, super senses, and shape change. I get 1 hit off on this guy at one point. He tries to make a free attack against my, because I get it onto that click. He tries to make a free attack against my Walking Wood, or not my Walking Wood, my symbiote, which doesn't he missed either on the super senses or the shape change. Shape change missed. Oh, and I needed a 6 on the super senses. So karmically, there we go. Karma is in my favor now. I got a 6 on the super senses. Great, cool. He goes back to his Lockjaw though. So I'm now at this point where it's like, okay, well, he's gonna try to use support on his Flash God of Death, but I'm in a state where I'm in the lead, because I've killed the Mini Shredder, I have killed Chamber, and he's used the ID card. So I've got 163 points. He's killed a Groot, killed a Surtur, killed both my Groots, a Surtur, and a Dr. Frankenstein. So he's got 40, 65, 95 points. So I've got a good, solid lead on him right now, and he's moved back. So I do not want to overstretch because we're well past halfway on time at this point. And I'm just like, you know what? I'm going to take it easy now. I do not need to rush. He needs to rush. So what I do end up doing is put my symbiote in a threatening position where he can't, like he's got to either deal with it or it's going to haunt him. It's really just at a space where he's going to be haunted. The second he finally gets his support off on the Flash God of Death, he gets him back to full clicks. I know I have to now force a reaction at him. So I base both his characters with my symbiote with some clever movements, and he chooses poison with Lockjaw. Great, I can retaliate on that if I have to. And he moves his Lockjaw up as a result afterwards, and gets his Flash kind of in a position where he wants to attack next turn. I feel like time is getting short, and I feel like now is my time. I can still strike safely, and do enough damage that's going to be obnoxious to him that he can't really get any points off on me. So I lead with the retaliation on the Carnage, hit the Lockjaw, drop the symbiote nearby. So I've done 1 damage to the Lockjaw. I try to attack the Flash God of Death. The first one misses. No, sorry. The first one hits. So I do damage. He's back on that phasing free action to attack a guy with an action token ability. And then my second attack gets shape changed off. So I go and make a second attack against the Lockjaw. That hits. He's now down to 4 tokens. I hit with a symbiote. He's down to 3 tokens. Then time is called. I was like, okay, well, there we go. And he's like, okay, so how does this, or what are the points what did I score? I was like, well, you got 95 and I got 163. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I killed the chamber. It's like, oh yeah. So on that, I get to move into the finals. And the finals, I'm up against Cecil. Cecil has a Blackbird team, a variant, as it were, on the Blackbird. He's got Blackbird, Wolverine, Cyclops, Moira McTaggart, and what was the figure? Shadowcat. A little bit of a different take on the Blackbird team. He's actually got a +6 to his dice roll, he also has a Darwin, which was a major factor in this game. It was almost the deciding factor. Because what ends up happening here is I give him his Leslie Evans. That's cool. I've got my Walking Woods. They slowly move up for turn 1. But, turn 2, I pick a power with Goblin King, and I retaliate with Cursurter because I took a damage. Here comes Surtur Claws with +2 attack, +1 damage, or no, +3 attack. It was +3 attack. It was like he ended up having a 15 attack on Darwin. And he could choose a defense power all he wants. He's not going to be able to use it against Surtur. So in one shot, Surtur does 3 damage to him. Then the 1 penetrating damage after the fact. So Darwin is now dead. 1 damage to most of the rest of his team. And now even if he kills Surtur, he's 10 points behind. He ends up using an ID call-in to try to kill the Surtur with an Iceman call-in. And he attacks with the Iceman, but then he moves his team still within range of the Iceman to be able to get the ice clone. And I'm thinking to myself, like, you just attacked with this thing. I'm going to send Groot at you? That fails miserably for me, even with like a +3 to attack, like +2 to attack with perplexes and +1 to damage. I tried to get that guy and I didn't get that guy. I missed completely. I completely whiffed it. And I was like, okay, well, that sucked. And then ended up, you'll note as well, in all of my top 8 games, I didn't once bring in a trouble alert. The first game I didn't miss enough to bring in a trouble alert. The second game, the Flash God of Death was too much of a threat at all times in the game for me to actually want to bring in a character with the trouble alert. I wasn't far enough ahead in order to deal with that. In this game, I also didn't bring in a trouble alert because by the time I was missing, there's still too many threats on the board. Cecil ends up taking his team and moving into the corner of the map that he's able to place his team because he sees threat level is super high and he needs to cool it and stop attacking me. But for a couple turns, he's clearing and I'm moving Walking Woods towards him. And then he makes a drastic error in judgment and uses his Cyclops piloted Blackbird to annihilate one of my Walking Woods. And that's when I'm able to retaliate with my other Groot and actually end up killing the Blackbird with the Groot, bringing out another Walking Wood, and just kind of pushing the pressure. Now, the other thing, too, is when you kill this Blackbird and there's a Cyclops in there, for the turn after, you've got to deal with a +2 attack, +2 to stats Cyclops. And he annihilates my Groot. I have the option to retaliate, but the stats are just too high for me. And my lead is still really solid. Like, I've killed 60 plus 35 points. I've got 95 points, plus he's used a 3-point ID card. What's my rush? Right? I am in no rush to get up there. He only had 4 IDs on this Blackbird team, too. So there was some weird things as far as that choice was concerned. At one point, I was slowly to retaliate with Carnage, but I also want my Carnage close enough to be able to flurry his Wolverine, because we all know Wolverine, if you can hit him twice, he's basically dead. So I perplexed up 3 times onto the attack on Carnage. He goes in. He has perplexed up all the defenses like once each, but it's still like through a 13 attack, I'm able to just push the damage through. First, the retaliation kills the Cyclops. Okay, well, I don't get my symbiote. I'm over it. As long as I can kill the Wolverine, I'm still in the lead, even if he kills my Carnage. So I end up killing the Wolverine. He tries to attack back with his Shadowcat, misses, and then his crackback with the Moira McTaggart was what hit me for 1 damage. But then I retaliate with Carnage again, and just eventually it all overwhelms him, and I end up getting the win on that. At Jax on Queen, I've won now 2 WKOs, and they have a habit of arming me when you win. So I've got a samurai sword now.
That's dangerous.
Well, I mean, it's got a sheath this time, so there's that. But yeah, it's I've looked into it. There's a blade in there that's but this top part is it's there's a sword.
Is it actually sharp?
A little bit, yes. They warned me about that, so this stays in my closet next to my other broadsword. Come at me, robbers. I guess.
I hope that's legal, but yeah.
My goal here now is I've got to win a 3rd one over Jax on Queen, and then I'm going to sit all my kids in the living room and show them Highlander, and then I'm going to say only one of you gets to college, and I run. See what happens.
Oh.
Just kidding. I'm not going to do that. But as always, it's a ton of fun. I appreciate the really cool stuff that they do offer up. And I had a ton of fun. It always helps when you win, of course. So that's an element. But every player was really good. I had a lot of fun playing with everybody. I hope anybody who played against me learned a couple things. I saw a lot of people whispering about my team, like, oh my gosh, it does this, it does this, it does this, it does this. Plus, I got a sideline full of treble alerts, even if my dice rolls aren't going well. So, people were really starting to look at my team and go, that's pretty cool. Which I like that effect. I like having that effect. It felt good, felt great. Overall, good experience. So before I move on to questions, Jay, I need you to talk for a little bit because I got to go also sneak to the washer myself, even though I've gone like 3 times before we started. Overall, though, takeaways from this weekend from what you've seen.
Trouble alerts are definitely a thing. I mean, I actually specifically had the toss-up between do I use a second ID card option? Do I keep the tank? Do I whatever? But I felt like just getting a Firestorm for natural prob is incredible, especially if you run out of theme probs, because I use theme probs a lot. I mean, Jason used 9. Derek Rattan had a bunch. Devin had one on the second place team. Were there any that I'm forgetting at the warehouse? You can unmute also. I want to actually talk. I don't know what the camera's going to look like now that Jason can't put us back and forth.
Yeah, I can't think of any others. I mean, there was, the regular stuff, some X-Men. Like I said, that one guy made a Asgardian / Avengers team.
Technically not, because Eric doesn't have Asgardian, just Avengers. But I think
still had Avengers.
I think I was pretty much on the money when I said that there's nothing really that's being main forced in Batman besides, I guess technically the 5-point suited henchman, but like we haven't seen too much main force from that set yet. Although
you wait.
I saw there was a title Batgirl on a second place team at a States or an Open, and Tom was talking about playing her.
Well, Tom and I had a very long talk when we were driving home from the event. I won't say too much more about that, but we were talking about a lot of builds and stuff. And I just opened my case today, and I pulled a title Batgirl and had built a team based around her recently as well. So we'll see.
It reminded me, we did, there was a Hardak Batman being played by, what's his name, James, who was second at Provincials last year. He always builds pretty weird, but...
Yeah, he had Rat King.
Yeah, last year he had the Rat King team.
Hell cow. You people let people do some really cool stuff. But other than that, I don't think I really saw much main force of the set. And the call-ins from like the new ID cards was mostly title Harley. I can't... Oh, Nick had... he did end up calling 100-point new Joker with Devil Dinosaur just for the poison. But otherwise, nothing really with the new ID cards outside of just obviously the Blackbird. But I think Trouble Alert is pretty relevant, especially just considering if you have a weird Jason team, you don't use ID cards, you can just have every option.
Yeah, you can have most of. I mean, honestly, there's a couple. If I was to go back in time and have all of the ones that I actually own in my possession, I can be absolutely positive that Adam wouldn't make the cut anymore. And who else? There's a couple.
Adam, like,
Superman. Adam was never relevant.
You played against Shape Change at some points.
Yeah, but not in a like I don't know if you're listening, but it was not a situation where he would be safely alive after using.
No, he wasn't going to do too much damage to a Flash God.
No. There was I don't think there was ever a situation where I wanted to bring in like after using the Superman once, he was way too much of a liability. And Robin would probably be dropped. And I would put the other three that I was missing, which would be Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Hawkman. I mean, Aquaman is capable of bringing in 4 characters in a single turn that can make close combat attacks adjacent to him while he's got Empower. I can add in the Goblin King's Empower to that if I want to possibly have some of them dealing 3 damage.
I just think the prob is just incredibly relevant. Like you I mean, Firestorm, on top of everything else, has Energy Explosion, which is just incredibly good right now.
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of swarms. There's a lot of stuff with shape change in general. So it's like, okay, I'll splash your Walking Woods, your symbiote, so I can't, whatever. Although you do have to remember, if you're playing against like a Star Fox or a Moondragon, those cosmic entity traits do matter. I saw some people forgetting those at both tournaments because it's like it's a weird random trait that nobody ever remembers. So
yeah. Well, one important element too is that Firestorm not only got prob, but even if he does take the 1 damage the next turn, then he's got a +2 perplex.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's huge in the grand scale of what these guys are capable of. And of course you're missing, so you need prob, and the next turn you can need some higher attacks to attack with. So
well, plus the fact that you have leadership options. So if like you lose your Groot, if you really need those actions, you can call him Wonder Woman. You have like every. Well, then there's a power that you really want that you can't just get. Like there's our Whip, Perplex, Prob, Barrier, Enhancement, like good offenses, tokens, bystanders. Like there's everything.
Yeah. So overall, if you got space and you have a couple of them, just throw them on. I mean, that's why they're going to be on every team.
Yeah. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You haven't used up your sideline. They're free.
Yeah. I think if you're not playing like a Blackbird for full ID cards, people are probably playing like in the area of 4. And even if you have a couple extra options for those, like you still have room.
Well, I mean, even Cecil's build, he was using 4 ID cards, only had like 5 characters on the sideline. Lots of room to work with that. You could put 4 more Trouble Alert guys on.
Yeah, even if you have like 4 ID cards, extra Cyclops, tank, that's still 3 chases. Like that's really good.
Yeah. All right. On that note, before we move into fan questions on Facebook and in the chat, I do want to remind everybody we have a Patreon at patreon.com/marriedwithclicks. We have a Discord, which is generally pretty active. And I mean, sorry, it's been less active lately because I've been slipping, but we're gonna get it more active. Any valuation gets you in on that, as well as this coming Sunday's patron hangout. So on Sunday, this coming August 5th. We're going to be having our patron hangout with our patrons. Me and Amber will answer your questions over camera, and we will live stream to everybody else. So if you want to be part of that, get it on the Patreon, or while the show is going on live, throw us a super chat. That makes you patron for a day, and we'll gladly answer any of your questions in the chat from there. So on that note, it is time to check if there's anything in the Patreon Discord. Okay, there's nothing. Nathaniel White in the Discord asks if Canada actually has robbers. We do, but they apologize on the way out. It's like, hey, sorry, we got your TV, eh?
Well, everybody just leaves their doors unlocked, so it's not so much a robber as confusion of, oh, this isn't my house, eh?
I thought it was my TV, eh? Or moose. Moose often rob things. Or Canadian geese. They take things all the time.
Oh, no, not the geese.
Raccoons.
Oh, yeah. Trash pandas?
Trash pandas.
All right. Next up, Michael Fedor, the Alpha patron. So now we've all had time to play with the new Batman set. Have you discovered any other combination of figures for a synergistic 1-2 punch teamwork? For example, Poison Ivy and Mr. Freeze work well. Anything else I can be recommended for a constructed game? Don't be sleeping on Maxi Zeus. Not a chance. Don't be sleeping on Maxi Zeus. His tokens are autonomous. They're invulnerable, which means you got to put work into them. And he's got enhancement to increase its 6 range in damage. Him with another enhancer or just other ways to increase attacks. That's going to be a threatening, and he's uncommon of all things. So don't sleep on him. Him and any other thing in there's a lot of autonomous tokens. Use an autonomous token once and then feel that power and then find more, because oh man, is it ever like a power trip to get that. Mike, your thoughts?
I like both title characters a lot, especially that Batgirl. Fast Force's Penguin from Joker's Wild is still legal, and title characters love that, especially when they share a named keyword with that figure, Gotham City. So, for 95 points, you can have title Batgirl and Penguin, and she can keep making that free attack on Penguin every turn so that she can keep getting plot point tokens, and she only every time she gets a plot point token, she can use Perplex. So yeah, and has natural prob. So there's a nice dynamic duo that I'm excited to play with.
Cool. Jay?
Ninjas are surprisingly good, considering on top dial they could have a 6 movement charge blades for 25 points, and Super Senses is just annoying right now because Precision Strike doesn't quite shut it off. They say constructed or sealed?
Constructed.
Constructed. Henchmen have turned out to be ridiculously effective. I was playing 2 of them, and I tended to have at least one on sidestep to Underworld carry the other one. Like at one point, I had, I think, one of them on sidestep close combat expert, the other one on plasticity poison, and I was just poisoning many things. It was awesome. Other than that, I haven't seen too much stuff from the set actually in play. I don't think. Didn't see anything as Collins. Didn't really see much. I want Hawkman and Hawkgirl to do the good stuff, but
they are neato.
Huh?
They are neato.
Their swing is some crazy stuff, and Zatanna will be good at some point, not necessarily right this second, especially considering that Mystics is more a liability than a good thing with the retaliation. So, future, hopefully.
All right, Michael Fader, let's follow up with a more obscure, less important question. Preference on Selena Kyle's hair? Long blonde or short brunette?
Short.
Short.
Sure.
Yeah, she looked like, I don't know, like too much of a socialite kind of whatever in the show. She just looked like a normal whatever, not a criminal.
That's the kind of question we're more than happy to answer on Move and Attack. Because we need to kill some time on the road. I'm like, I should not be armed. I am just playing with this like it's a toy.
You'll be disarmed.
Oh. This me. All right. Moving into the chat because not much action on Facebook today. Maybe I put it up too early. I think I put it up like
Oh, you did it like
5
really
in the
early
morning. So I did it on my commute to work. So.
Oh my God, you're crazy.
All right. Well, I mean, I have an 8-minute commute. That's 8 minutes on the train. Come on now. I got to kill that time somehow, guys. I barely get through 4 songs before I'm at work. All right. B.A. McCoy, is the hit before damage or after damage? And I'm sure he's referring to the wanted posters. And this time I can be absolutely positively sure because of the use of the word immediately. If you hit with an attack, immediately they're gone. So you don't even determine damage yet.
Yeah.
So
surprisingly annoying if like they have a carnage and it's like, haha, no pog for you.
Yeah, because he's not there anymore. It's like, Durf! That's
I wasn't here to talk about it, but at one point somebody was carnaging against my real boy, Cyclops. So I gave him a team drop to push to go away before the pog would have happened. So it actually would have been better for him to miss that attack than to hit.
Ew. All right. He also asks if Tyrannus uses the bounty card and calls in. Do all his Tyrannoids surrounding him get the inspiration as well, as long as they're adjacent to Wolverine?
Yep.
It's just too bad they don't have autonomous. Or
oh man, if they were autonomous, they'd be so busted.
Oh, that plasticity! I remember you played him in a battle royale, and it's like, okay, that's my actions.
Yeah, it's like my Tyrannoids move. I'm done. Actually, Mike was in that. That was Mike's ever increasingly self-destructive Thor and Mjolnir.
I mean, it's funny because that Thor was brittle bone disease Thor. So
yeah, exactly. That's why he wore the armor.
Story, yeah,
perfectly. It was a perfect Thor.
Van Tassel is really excited to hear about my monster team. I got it. You've heard it now. So, all right. I also throw a congratulations to Slash Chavez, who got 3rd place at his WKO using shifting focus Deadpool. With the prime on the sideline, 50-point Wolverine, 50-point Cyclops, suited henchman, and 100-point Blackbird with a Wolverine ID, Banshee ID, student IDs of Cyclops, Jean, and Iceman. Congrats!
Interesting.
Oh, yeah. Everybody kind of left because when it came to my time for story, I'm going to be the only one talking. We're going to try to avoid interrupting each other so they could jump off to go to the washroom or walk the dog or something like that. All right. Happy Little Heroclix wants to know what team / figure surprised you the most to see in a top 8. Oh, okay. Well, the team I played against in the top 8 was wow. We had the Owl, first of all, from Avengers Defenders War, and the movie Thor and Hulk along with Frogman. Like that combination altogether, including the fact that Thor and Hulk were there. That team was just like blew my mind. Mike, what about you?
Honestly, there wasn't any at the provincial event. There wasn't anything I saw in the top 8 that surprised me to be there, other than maybe I would say the Doc Ock that Jimmy was using, only because Doc Ock's kind of disappeared out of the meta, it seems like, at least locally here. I haven't been seeing him in a while, so that was a surprise. Not that the figure is surprisingly good, because we already know that it's good, but everybody pretty much was playing all the regular stuff, Tom's was a little different because he played Mephisto at full points. But in general, there just wasn't any figure that was there that I didn't sort of expect to see there.
I was actually testing a similar team to Tom's a while ago, but didn't quite work because Mephisto is too easy to ignore. But I looked over the top 8 there, nothing really surprising. I don't even want to mention the top 8 of the other event because it was out of 13 people. But Nick Peterson's team is surprisingly awesome. Like, the Infinity Inspiration makes double dinosaur pogs like 100 times better because like +2 swing for the Modocs and then just extra charge swing on the drop bears. Real good. Really good stuff.
All right. So the next one comes from Majestic's Heroclix. I know it's you, Patrick. I know it's you. My article should be up actually very soon where I talk about the WKO that I was at. Any of the new chases viable main force as opposed to Trouble Alert? I personally think that Firestorm has a place as a main force character for 60 points with a +2 perplex. Can't argue with that. The only problem I'm worried about is his occasional weakness is Outwit, and a lot of people are bringing Outwit right now, so that may factor into his effectiveness. But for the most part, I think him and Green Lantern are probably the two most likely to be pretty strong, in my opinion, on main force. Because the Green Lantern, like you can bring in Cairo, and Cairo is a really good support character because he's got defend and support, and to defend with a 14 defense. So like a 9 on 14 heal is pretty legit. Mike?
I slid off the mute button there. Yeah, you've pretty much covered the two that I would have said. Firestorm and Green Lantern are the two that look like they could potentially be benefit and hold their own. Everything else looks sideline-ish. I mean, I like the Flash, but I kind of always like the idea of not so bad hypersonicking character, but he feels better coming in for free for a couple of quick attacks. He doesn't really have the longevity. So yeah, Firestorm and Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm. Jay?
I think Robin is good, and although his plasticity weakness is common, his defenses and attack are already so bad it doesn't really matter. Like Walking Woods need 8s, or would have need 8s without it. It's like, whatever. You're not attacking Robin, but Cheaper Plex is good. Aquaman at 30 with like King Shark or like other randomness. He's harder to kill than King Aquaman for only a little bit more points. Seems fine. Flash, just to throw the prob in there. Offenses are fine. Green Lantern at lower seems good. Apache Chief, I want to be good, not really. Full Point Atom is really weird.
That's another one, yeah. Full Point Atom is probably more useful than Trouble Alert Atom, to be brutally honest, because he's got that pulse wave. He's got leadership, outwit, and probability control all in one single power.
And I mean, his weakness is almost the worst because it's like, I'm gonna retaliate on Atom, and okay, you just definitely hit.
No.
But yeah, those ones, and even then, like, I don't see myself going out of my way to include any of them except for maybe Flash, just because, like, kind of like the Serpent Spider-Man, it's like his offenses aren't the best, but it's like, who cares? He's so cheap with hypersonic, kind of like the Jay Garrick Flash. And just also prob. But also, it seems to be a pattern that the best ones have the most relevant weaknesses because sidestep is everywhere. It's like, hey, you have X-Men. There's your sidestep. There's your perplex for Batman. There's all the weaknesses in one team.
All right. Patrick goes on to ask, Fast Forces Turtles, the actual 50-point ones, are they viable in 300 Modern? Yes-ish. I mean, there's viability to them. I don't think on their own, like a team on their own, but a team featuring them as well as, whatever else you might be using could be a factor in the game. They're difficult to kill, and they're 50 points, which means you have to put more effort into these guys than you'd ever want to for a 50-point character. And that trait, the continue, is protected pulse wave. So even if they pulse wave them to death, they're back in the game on click 2. And their click 2s are generally about the same as their first click. So I think there's a place for them personally. What do you think, Mike?
No turtles. No.
Hate us. Jay?
I was going to say that. I think you need Peace Machine to really stretch the dial length out, but I think there's some potential there. Like, I wouldn't play it personally because that just seems like a too hard build to actually play, but like, or too weird. But I could see it happening.
I'm wondering if it's time to put the monsters down and try something new. All right. This one's more directed at Jay. Is Living Tribunal legit?
I think this person knows that I played against Living Tribunal because I missed the show last week because I was away. But
It's Patrick Iboko.
Oh, it was also Patrick. It's weird because we both played against it, and the abstract power matters a lot because it's -1 actions, but also the fact that he has invulnerability top dial is kind of the killing blow for him, considering how easy it is to Psychic Blast stuff. Like, you have your main force Cyclops, you have your Brutex, you have what was it? We just got the Shadowcat inspiration with Exploit. Like, if you had Invincible top dial instead, completely different story. But it's just fringy level, I think, not quite must play.
So squishy.
Yeah,
he can win some games, but the real problem is that the way that the meta is right now, you have to assume you're going to have one game where someone's going to come all the way across the map on you and make an attack early, and he'll die.
Yeah, like,
He's squishy and he'll die.
Yeah, like a Samcap team will bring out a Psychic Blaster to do 4 damage at least, just with her own stats. I just want to see, like, if you pump 4 penetrating damage into him, 1, 2, 3, he's in cap, perplexed, like, he doesn't do anything. Like, Energy Explosion's good, but, like, I think it's really all down to the leadership or anti-leadership tech, because people are using all their actions even with leadership these days, so could be worth playing around with.
Maybe worth pushing him.
Yeah, that's surprisingly a probable thing you do.
Moondragon?
What?
Use Moondragon. Pop him off that first click. Now he's invincible.
Yeah. I also feel like he's a little too expensive. Just like not overcosted, just a smidge too expensive for competitive, considering what you get. But potential. Call it.
All right. Next up, B.A. McCoy. Question for Jay. How could I improve my animal theme team? Lockjaw, Cosmo, Hellcow, Gertrude and Old Lace, Koi Boy, Throg.
First of all, I don't think that Gert and Old Lace are viable because pushing damage just kills the Pog. So...
yeah, there's enough incapacity in the current game.
Yeah,
so,
like...
well, you really just cleared up 50 points. How would you spend it differently, Jay?
I was also going to say you actually get 100 points back because you get rid of the Hellcow. So yeah, King Shark. And then you throw in like a suited henchman to fill in the points and not break theme, probably.
Or an ID card, because King Shark could free move an ID card if you need to do that.
Right. Yeah. I'd also try and throw in some ID cards that can make pogs to make up for numbers if you end up losing out on the numbers.
Tribble. Get a Tribble in there. It's animal.
Yeah. Animal. It keeps the animal theme.
That's what? That's true. That's probably better. That's better than the henchman. So
there you go. Tribble, because then you
so minus
have way control over when you're going to call in the extra thing you need just to keep your numbers.
You probably get rid of the Koi Boy too. Throw in another Tribble there instead. Then you have room for like 2 ID cards. Probably that's what you do.
There's some options.
I mean, you got a strong base with basically Lockjaw and King Shark. It's just a matter how you add on to that.
The Penguin is also animal keyword, isn't he? The super rare from.
No.
I want to argue that.
I mean, you can, but it doesn't mean it's true.
And if it is true, do I get to unpants you on the show again?
Gotham Underworld for the 40-pointer.
Yeah, you got lucky on that one.
Yeah, I got lucky knowing the things. Yeah,
hey, I mean, some of us have jobs, Jay.
I mean, to be fair, you actually played that figure, so you should know.
No, I shouldn't. The team wasn't a theme team.
Wow.
I know, eh? He's a mouthy one. All right. But yeah, so there's a couple options for your animal team. But does it for the questions today. Anything else you guys wanted to do today before we go? Mike? Jay?
The only thing I want to mention is that I definitely will have the date and location for the Canada Cup by the end of the week. I will be promoting the hell out of that, so keep an eye out.
No problem.
Especially if you are in the Western New York area that I was in yesterday. So get your passports if you're that close to the border. We got some good stuff going on up here.
All right, cool. Then on that note, I do want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for watching in the archives, watching live, wherever you happen to be watching this show. On that note, I want to thank our sponsors, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders. It's a source of maniacs who are really good at this game. A lot of people who are really smart or, accomplished in this game, have clever ideas, etc. They find themselves in the Majestic's Apex Insiders as writers. Some of us are maniacs like myself, and you get to read the exploits of my maniacness from this past weekend if you don't want to listen to me talk about it, and you happen to skip forward to this part of the show. I will have a write-up on there very shortly. I actually submitted it to Patrick last night. So, and then, of course, there's tournament reports from all sorts of really good players. There's going to be all kinds of reports coming from this weekend from various states, WKOs. There's a lot of stuff happening this past weekend, and it was really it's the problem I love having is it's just too much Heroclix to play, and Majestics is a great place to kind of culminate all those ideas, and all those great brains sharing ideas. You get to absorb that information and share that with the rest of the world. So check them out, MajesticCCG.com/Apex-Insiders, $3 a month. It's a great brain dump, and there's also free articles on a regular basis where you can get some cool information. But when it comes down to it, guys, you got a tournament coming up, and you want to be armed like me. Remember to get some practice, because practice will make your team better and make you armed. Don't play with weapons, kids.